Suzangpo and a warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine. I'm Tashiyangden. Our top stories of the week. Joint sitting of the Parliament adopts the Forest and Nature Conservation Bill of Bhutan 2021. Public Accounts Committee's review report presented to the joint sitting. Over 5 billion item worth irregularities unresolved. And efforts are underway to create musical notations for 250 Bhutanese folk songs. The joint sitting of the Parliament finally adopted the Forest and Nature Conservation Bill of Bhutan 2021 on 3rd of July. The bill was first introduced in December 2021. Among the 68 members present in the House, 66 approved the bill. It was supposed to be approved on Friday, but was postponed due to 4 disputed clauses. The Joint Committee of the bill was then directed to revisit the clauses.
The National Assembly recommended adding a new section to the bill which would allow the roads to cut or trim trees that obstruct commuters on the road. However, the National Council recommended doing away with the section. The joint sitting today agreed to remove the section.
We have decided to remove the section because Chapter 13 of the Road Act of Bhutan 2013 has mentioned provisions related to roads, sidewalks or any other pathways in detail. Moreover, Chapter 15 has rules regarding roads where Section 208 of the Act mentions the subjects in more detail than the proposed section after Section 47 of the bill.
Moreover, the Joint Committee also decided to allow issuing forestry clearance within 500 meters of monasteries and zones for the developmental activities of the monuments. However, the Prime Minister raised his concern about the clause.
Before, forestry clearance for roads and water were not given only for the monasteries, but for any village beyond the 500-meter radius. However, according to report presented by the Joint Committee, when they say developmental activities are only for the monasteries and zones, the settlements beyond 500 meters of the area will not be able to get electricity, water and roads. Therefore, the meaning of the section has changed.
Since the section was already adopted, the Speaker requested the House to consider and note down the concern. The bill was adopted after making some minor word changes to 2 other clauses. Singidama, PBS News.
The National Assembly has passed the Pay Revision Bill of Bhutan 2023 on Tuesday. The House today re-deliberated and adopted the bill with a new section on 21 days of annual leave for civil servants and revoked the National Council's recommendation on reinstating duty-free membership for members of Parliament.
The chairperson of the Economic and Finance Committee of the National Assembly said the NA recommended a 21-day annual leave for civil servants after consulting with the Royal Civil Service Commission and the government. Other members of Parliament also supported the recommendation of increasing the annual leave from 12 days to 21. The Royal Civil Service Commission recently introduced the annual leave of 12 days to promote periodic rejuvenation and work-life balance for civil servants. The NA recommended increasing the annual leave to 21 days, but it was rejected by the National Council. The National Council's Good Governance Committee had said that the RCSC is an autonomous institution and that the Parliament should not meddle with the civil service rules and regulations.
Earlier, when we add 30 days of earned leave and 10 days of casual leave, it is 40 days. Now there is no earned leave, and when we add casual leave and annual leave of 10 days, it comes to 31 days. So the leave has not amounted to the previous total leave, but it has in turn decreased. Therefore, I feel like an increase from 12 to 21 days is deserving.
The National Assembly also rejected the National Council's recommendation on reinstating duty-free membership for members of Parliament. The duty-free membership was discontinued at the beginning of this year in line with the Pay Structure Reform Act of Bhutan 2022.
We have not witnessed any act where it says there will be tax exemptions on alcohol. In the past, after issuing an executive order by the government, the duty-free membership came into existence. Moreover, it is also not mentioned in the Pay Revision Bill or Tax Act. Therefore, if it is needed in the future, the government can reinstate it with an executive order. So we found it not necessary in this bill.
The bill was passed with 44 members of parliament voting in favour of the bill. It will now be submitted to His Majesty the King for royal assent. Kinzang Hadin, PBS News.
The National Assembly adopted the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities a few weeks ago. The convention was ratified after almost a decade with 4 reservations. During the recent Meet the Press session, the Prime Minister clarified why the government had reservations regarding 4 sub-clauses in the convention. He said it was against the constitution and other laws in the country.
The convention was adopted with 4 reservations on articles regarding liberty of movement and nationality, respect for home and family, work and employment, and participation in political and public life. The Prime Minister shared that they had reservations due to certain legal provisions. According to the Prime Minister, the Article 23 of the Convention states that the person with disabilities, including children, must have the right to fertility. He added that in the Convention, children are considered those who are below the age of 16, whereas the country law says those under the age of 18 are considered children.
The reservation is not on the whole clause. The whole clause gives every person with disability the same right as anybody else. He or she can marry, he or she can have any number of children, he or she can choose to marry or not to marry or adopt or kahara, bego, beta chubbe, zogo, see.
The Prime Minister further added that the government had reservations regarding Article 29 on participation in political and public life.
Everyone will have the right, irrespective of one's disability, will have the right to vote, except A2 nalu reservation chungu chikyojai, where one says one should be unconditionally, all persons with disability should be allowed to vote and choose for public space lives la mewala analu, because ECB act is very clear. ECB will decide who all not to give the voting rights if that person is of mental disorder yavachin, capable to decide on his or own capability to decide bematsubachin. ECB will not allow that person to vote.
The government also had reservations regarding 2 clauses in Article 18 of the Convention, which talks about right to nationality immediately after birth and right to change nationality. According to the Prime Minister, the right to nationality is decided by the Parliament as per the Constitution, and just because someone is born disabled cannot be guaranteed nationality. The government also said that it will not be bound by a clause in Article 27 of the Convention, which gives persons with disabilities rights to exercise labour and trade union. The Prime Minister said Bhutan does not allow trade and labour union by law. Bhutan signed the convention with around 190 other countries during the 65th UN General Assembly in 2010. Devika Pradhan for BBS News.
The Finance Ministry is currently working on a vehicle quota policy that is accessible and equitable to all citizens. This was shared during the Meet the Press session held last week by the Finance Minister, who said it is a part of the tax reforms. The Minister added that the vehicle quotas should not be seen as an additional monetary benefit for purchasing cars, but rather as an exemption from sales tax and customs tax. Lempo raised concerns about combining vehicle quota with pay revision, as these are matters that require separate consideration. The vehicle quota for civil servants and members of parliament was removed from the Pay Restructure Reform Bill of Bhutan 2022 last year.
For instance, if a household or a family does not own a car and desires to purchase a vehicle in the future, then they should be exempted 100% from tax. So vehicle quota should not be given just to civil and public servants, but to all the people in the country. Following the first purchase of a vehicle by a person, and as the same person goes on buying second and third vehicles, then they can be taxed accordingly in a differentiated approach. This is what I've also shared with the National Council. Then there will be no difference between a person who gets a quota and another person from whom the tax is waived. Eventually, people want the sales and custom tax, as in the goods tax, to be waived.
To allow for smooth transit of goods between Bhutan and India, the two countries have agreed to set up the first integrated checkpost between Phinseling and Jaigon. This was announced by the Foreign Affairs and External Trade Minister, Dr. Tanji Doji, during the Meet the Press session recently. Subsequently, the government will also set up similar checkposts in Gelifu, Samrupjongkhar and Samsi. According to the minister, the government has requested additional routes on the Indian highways to minimize problems faced by Bhutanese exporters and truckers.
The foreign minister said there were so many formal and informal trade routes and highways that were not notified by the government of India, which gives lot of problems. Therefore, a team from Bhutan visited all the highways in India that Bhutanese use for trade to India and Bangladesh. The ministry is in the process of formalizing the exit and entry points of trade with India along the southern border. He added that unlike Nepal, which has 3, Bhutan do not have a single integrated checkpost with India.
So these integrated checkposts will allow the smooth transit of goods between our two countries, and towards that, India and Bhutan, we have agreed, and we are going to set up the first integrated checkpost, Phunsling Jaigongi Panalu, because that is our biggest hub. Subsequently, we will do same thing with Gelifu and Samrupjongkhar, and then subsequently with Samsila.
Similarly, the ministry has also requested for additional routes on highways to the government of India to reduce problems related to Suvidha app and informal taxes, which is collected on Indian highways. The Suvidha app is a web-based system started by the West Bengal government to make it easier for Bhutanese truckers to get clearance and smooth movement of vehicles through various integrated checkposts on the Indo-Bangladesh border.
We've also requested for to use the Chilahatti-Haldibari railroad that is very close to Samsi. If they allow us to use that railroad, then all our exporters can use that, and it will minus the problem with Suvidha app and minus the Gunda tax that takes place along the highways. Our truckers will not face problems if we use the railroad.
According to the minister, with the transit agreement with Bangladesh signed, the government is looking at additional trade routes to Bangladesh if the railway between Kokrajhar in Assam and Gelifu is connected. He added that the Kokrajhar railway is directly connected to Bangladesh. For Karmawandi, Devika Pradhan for BBS News.
From over 7.5 billion yetam worth of irregularities in the financial year 2021 to 2022, more than 2 billion yetam of irregularities were resolved as of May this year. This is according to the Public Accounts Committee, who presented the annual audit report 2021 to 2022 at the joint sitting of the Parliament on Wednesday.
According to the report, shortfalls, lapses and deficiencies topped the irregularities category, amounting to more than 5 billion yetam. But irregularities amounting to more than 1 billion yetam have been resolved as of May this year. The irregularities regarding non-compliance with laws, rules and regulations accounted for over 2 billion yetam, and nearly 1 billion yetam has been resolved. From about 26 million yetam worth of irregularities under the fraud and corruption, only about 2 million yetam were resolved. The constitutional agencies have resolved all their irregularities. The hydropower projects have also resolved more than 90% of their irregularities. According to the report, the total unresolved irregularities reported between 2010 and 2021 are reported to be over 5 billion yutam. From that, 151 cases worth over 270 million yutam are still with the courts. 53 cases amounting to 52 million yutam were regarding pending enforcement of judgment, and 14 cases worth about 90,000 yutam are pending with the Anti-Corruption Commission. At the joint sitting, the members of parliament raised the concerns regarding the pending cases of unresolved irregularities registered with the courts.
The court should segregate the cases and solve them. We do not have to worry if the cases take about 3 to 5 years, but when the cases are left pending for about 10 years, then we are worried. So if the cases are pending because the people involved are missing or have fled the country, we can include that in our report to make it clear.
The Public Accounts Committee also recommended to expedite the litigation and enforcement of judgment. The Parliament will continue the deliberation on Annual Audit Report 2021 to 2022 tomorrow. Kinsang Haden, PBS News.
Tuesdays will no longer be observed as dry days in the country. This means alcohol can be freely sold by restaurants, hotels, and other licensed businesses even on Tuesdays. The Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Employment says this decision has been made following requests from the business community as well as from the monitoring stakeholders.
The Minister for Industry, Commerce and Employment says the ministry has been receiving requests from businesses all the time pleading to do away with the dry day policy. He shared this at the monthly meeting with business entities held last Friday, where the same appeal was proposed yet again. The minister shared that the request has been acknowledged. He added that this move is part of its initiative to update and improve the trade and industries regulations.
People drink on Tuesday. It is just that they buy and take and drink. And also from our people working in that sector that who have to monitor, they were also expressing that it is very difficult to monitor because we do not have that many people to monitor and enforce. And meanwhile, what the seller and buyers are saying is on Tuesday also they are able to get alcohol, they are able to go and buy alcohol because strict monitoring has not been done. And then also because of the economic situation right now.
According to the ministry, the new policy comes into effect from today. The news has been warmly received by businesses dealing in alcohol.
For almost 3 years in the past, I have been struggling. So if the government allows us to sell alcohol on dry days, we would be really grateful since it will benefit us in paying the rent and utility bills like water and electricity bills.
In my opinion, permitting the sale of alcohol during dry days is very beneficial for us. Firstly, we can pay the house rent from extra income we generate from selling alcohol. Secondly, when we accidentally sell alcohol on Tuesdays without realizing it's a dry day, we get fined an amount equivalent to 6 months' worth of our income, resulting in a significant loss.
We are very happy with the lifting of the dry day. I don't feel the difference before the pandemic because we have more customers. However, with the fewer people visiting us today, we are facing difficulties.
A few members of the public BBS talked to also shared similar views.
From my perspective, I feel it's okay that there are no longer any dry days because people who drink manage to consume alcohol even during the dry days. Therefore, I support this decision.
In my opinion, I feel that this decision will be beneficial for the bars and shopkeepers because I have witnessed those businesses being affected by a large number of people moving abroad. Therefore, if the dry day is lifted, I think the bar owners and shopkeepers can generate extra income.
According to the old rule, any business entity selling alcohol on a dry day was liable to pay a fine equivalent to a daily minimum wage of 6 months or the previous year's business income tax, whichever is higher. Repeated offenders had their licenses cancelled for 3 years. The policy to observe every Tuesday as a dry day was put in place in 1999, but the reasons as to why are not known. For Karmawandi, this is Sharab Doji, BBS News.
A couple is under police custody in Paro for allegedly smuggling $450,000, which comes to almost 38 million yetam, to Bangkok in Thailand on the 23rd of last month. Both are working in the catering section of the Druk Air. According to sources, the man was traveling as a passenger on the Druk Air flight bound for Bangkok from Paro, escorting his niece to Australia via Bangkok.
It is suspected that the man's wife sneaked the dollars with the food and beverages that were loaded on the aircraft. Sources said the cash was stashed in a whiskey cover. BVS learned that the man was apprehended upon arrival at the Suvarnabhumi International Airport in Bangkok. The Bangkok Airport security surveillance apprehended the man on suspicion of his frequent travel between Bangkok and Paro. The cash has been seized by the Thai customs. According to sources, the accused tried to bribe a Thai customs official at the airport after being caught with the large sum of cash. As per BBS sources, 2 businessmen from Paro were questioned at the Paro police station in relation to the case. The Druk Air Corporation suspended the 2 accused as soon as they were apprehended by the police. The Paro police did not comment on the matter. For Namgyeonchu in Paro, this is Kipchu for BBS News.
Taxi drivers who drive electric vehicles say lack of adequate charging points and having to wait long hours to get access to a charging point are hampering their business. Taxi drivers say the increase in the number of electric vehicles in the country has further strained the limited numbers of charging points. There are almost 500 electric vehicles in the country today.
The government started an initiative to import electric vehicles in 2014 to help reduce the country's dependency on fossil fuels. According to taxi drivers, despite increasing number of electric vehicles imports, the number of charging points remained the same. Today, half of the electric vehicles in the country are taxis. Taxi drivers say some broken charging points are left without repairs, making the matter worse. Some drivers share experiences of spending a night in the car in order to get their vehicles charged.
Most EV taxi drivers use charging points in Thimphu as charging points are not installed in every district. 95% of the drivers use services from here. The greatest difficulty is not having adequate charging points. In Thimphu, we only have 4 charging stations and there are almost 200 electric vehicles in Thimphu alone.
When we go for charging, we have to wait in line as other drivers would already be charging their vehicles. Because of that, we lose our passengers to other drivers. Sometimes we have to tow our vehicles when battery gets exhausted. If the project or the Department of Surface Transport install charging points at certain points, we would be very thankful.
There is a shortage of charging points and those installed are also broken and they are not repairing it. So it would be beneficial to taxi drivers like us if they could install additional charging points.
According to an official from the Department of Surface Transport, 1 charging point in Thimphu's Dangrena is completed and will soon be operational. He also added that the department has finished installing charging stations in 17 districts. However, taxi drivers say that some of these stations have not started operating as yet. The official also added that a charging station in Tashigang's Wamrong town and at Tingtibi in Jamgang will be installed in a month's time. This is Ugendorji for BBS News.
Availing counseling services will become easier and more accessible as the Ministry of Education and Skills Development has launched an innovative e-counseling platform. It was launched in the capital on the 30th of June. The new initiative is designed to facilitate online counseling and connect people with trained professionals who can offer guidance, support, and advice on mental health and other issues.
The online service can be accessed through the Sharik Counseling Services Facebook page and the Ministry's official website. On their Facebook page, users can click on the Contact Us option, which will direct them to the Google Sheet form. After filling out the form, a counselor will get in touch with clients to begin the counseling session.
Because of a lot of individuals who are deprived of availing face-to-face counseling services, now we are launching this to provide accessible professional counseling services to those people who are finding difficulties to avail in-person counseling services.
She added that the e-counseling will operate with a team of trained and certified counselors. There are currently 160 counselors for this service.
We have counselors in most of the secondary schools, so children can opt to avail services in person or online. So say for example, if a child is not comfortable seeing the counselor in person, I can always avail the online counseling, what we call it e-counseling.
According to the ministry, this digital platform is targeted for students, but it is also available for the general public. People facing problems, especially with mental health, are urged to come forward and seek support. Tikil Hazom for BBS News.
The Traditional Performing Arts and Music Division, formerly known as the Royal Academy of Performing Arts, has taken a new initiative to safeguard and popularize Bhutanese folk songs. Their goal is to make these traditional songs known worldwide and ensure they're accessible for future generations. To achieve this, the division has started creating musical notations for 250 folk songs. Musical notation is a system of representing musical sounds or notes on paper or other media. These notations allow musicians to play the songs on any instrument, preserving their cultural importance even as contemporary music gains more prominence.
The center has set a goal to create 250 folk songs within 2 months. They will provide both audio and text versions of the songs. To ensure their long-term availability, these songs will be preserved in an archive, safeguarding them for future generations. Sunmi Pak, a well-known music expert from South Korea, is currently a professor at Kathmandu University in Nepal. She is actively involved in the project and provides valuable assistance. Professor Pak spends her time transcribing detailed music notations and training the artist throughout the day. Her extensive knowledge and unwavering dedication play a crucial role in ensuring the project's goals are successfully achieved.
In these days, the young generation, they don't get much interested in traditional music. That means if we don't put traditional music on paper, it will disappear. This is really serious from my viewpoint. So Western notation is one of the best to help to more preserve Bhutanese traditions and culture.
The project not only helps preserve our culture, but also makes it easier for foreign musicians to learn and play Bhutanese traditional songs.
All foreign musicians have their own Western notation written on paper. In the future, they will be able to refer to our notation. Learning notations did exist in our culture but lacked proper method to do so. But now we have a clear method which will help avoid any misinterpretation of the tunes.
Although there are over 1,000 folk songs in the collection, the center is currently focusing on the most well-known ones, due to time limitations. However, there are ambitious plans for the future to include all songs, including classical compositions, to ensure the complete preservation of Bhutan's abundant musical heritage.
Our culture should be nationally rooted and globally competent. Likewise, seeing the need for making musical notation for our songs, we invited a musical expert from South Korea, and the creation of musical notation is currently underway. The benefit of the project is that if ever there is a deterioration of folk songs, we will be able to revive and preserve them for future.
The acting principal added that this project is one of the largest projects ever undertaken. Highlighting the importance of traditional songs and music as essential parts of Bhutan's tangible culture, the acting principal said that preserving them is crucial for maintaining the country's identity and independence. The project is funded by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization through their documentation, advocacy and awareness program on tangible cultural heritage of Bhutan. With additional information from Sringdiki, Devika Pradhan for BBS News.
That is it for this week. Do join us next week as we bring you the next edition of the program. Thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.